Okay, you might remember last week we started making this bracket, which is going to be the radiator support. It's also going to hold the intercooler and the oil cooler and the power steering cooler. This is what I've got so far. Obviously there's still a lot to do, and we'll tidy it up and make it look nicer later, but you get the general idea. We've got this little bracket here for the radiator to sit in. That's where the sort of stud on the radiator goes in. I've just got to make the other one now, so yeah, let's get on with it. First thing we've got to do is notch this square tube so that it actually fits around the round tube that makes up the bulk of the support. It would have been a lot easier, to be honest, if I'd made the whole thing out of square tube, but yeah, round tube looks nicer. So we'll use this lovely device to cut a hole in it that's the right size to fit around the tube. There we go. Right, now we need to cut it at like a 45-degree angle. The reason for that is because, as you can see, this is slightly higher than where the radiator needs to mount. So they need to come off the tube at an angle down, and then we need a cut there so that this then goes straight. Right, I've just tacked these two small bits in place that we notched to fit the pipe. Now we're going to weld them all the way around. There we go, they're all welded on there. I don't know if you can see at all, but they are welded on. So now we need to go make the straight bits and the little section that the radiator is actually going to sit in. Right, I've just cut and tacked these longer bits on here. So for now we just need to weld all the way around them, and then we'll make it look presentable in a minute. I think I've measured everything correctly to get this hole in the exact right place relative to the other one, and the exact right distance back and all that stuff. Right height, I think we've got everything right. So we're gonna weld it in place. Right, this is just the underneath, so it doesn't have to be particularly pretty, but it turned out okay for the most part. It'll do. As you can see, it is in, and it fits just. Like, we're very, very tight up to there, but it doesn't actually touch it. So I'm quite impressed by that. I didn't mean to raise it that much, to be honest. I meant to raise it by like 5 or 6 mil. Ended up being more like 11 or 12 mil. So that's why we're super tight to that. But the bonnet does still shut, just. It doesn't actually hit it. You can't really tell, but you just have to trust me that it doesn't actually hit the radiator at all. I am thinking of getting rid of this whole section though. Like, I don't need that anymore because we're going to have bonnet pins or aero catches or whatever you want to call them, that are going to be keeping it closed, so we don't need this anymore. And this whole sort of section is going to get in the way, because like you can see, this doesn't follow the shape of the bonnet at all. This is just like an extra sort of skin on the underside, and this whole section is going to get in the way of where the intercooler end tank is going to be. So tempted to just strip that bit out. I don't know, seems like it's probably going to be a lot of work to cut that out nicely, but fuck it, let's cut it out. Good. Am I just breaking these? I might just be breaking these, I'm not sure. I kind of assumed they go back in. Oh yeah, they go back in. We're fine, we're fine. Okay. You might wonder why I'm not taking the bonnet off the car, but that's basically because it's a pain in the ass on your own to get the bonnet off the car and back on the car. So we're going to try it in situ to start with. There we go. She's off. Weight saving. Right, so what's keeping that in now? What do you mean? Right, I'm pretty sure this is just fucking glued on, because I can see some little pads up there, and like one of them has started to peel off a bit, but when I try and pry the whole thing with a pry bar, it just bends the bonnet. So we're going to try and heat it up, so we can break the glue down a bit, and then just peel it off. That's the plan. See how it goes. Shut up. Shut up. Oh god, there's loads of these little gluey cunts. Come on. There we go. How many of those little gluey boys there were? No wonder it won't come off. Like, they went to town on that, didn't they? Like 19 glue boys and then rivets and another layer of aluminium under it. Amazing. Right. What we're going to do to tidy this up. Right, that's enough chopping the bonnet up for now. We'll sort all that out later, at least for now we've got the space that we needed. What we're moving on to now is these new things. We've got a new power steering cooler and a new oil cooler, which is a bit bigger than the previous one. The other one got damaged slightly anyway, so it kind of could have done with replacing. And like I say, this is a bigger one, which I think we're going to need. Now we're going to go for a slightly weird setup. We're going to have, obviously the front bumper will be like out here somewhere. Then we're going to have the intercooler, then the oil cooler and the power steering cooler, and then the radiator. Now, people normally have these two smaller coolers at the front or off to the side or whatever, but just because of various space constraint reasons, I won't bore you with all the details, but basically the intercooler needs to go at the front. So that's kind of what we've got to deal with. I've got to make some kind of mount setup for these as well. We've got these nice rubber mounts on them, which will like isolate them from all the vibration and stuff, so it should last a long time. But we need to make some sort of platform for them to sit on. We're going to do it coming off this bar that we just put in. Ideally, I kind of want something going across the top as well to mount to the top sections, but we'll probably just be lazy and just do the bottom, let's be honest. I've not decided exactly how I'm going to do it yet, but we'll figure it out as we go. Right, we skipped forward quite a bit here. I didn't film making any of this, but this is what I've made. I will film making the other one, which is going to be for the power steering cooler. This one, I didn't film it because I was kind of just winging it and just like testing stuff and wasn't really sure what was going to end up going for, so I thought it was kind of pointless filming it if I was just going to end up scrapping it and starting again. But it ended up working out alright. We've got these rubber mounts which are going to isolate the cooler from all the vibration, and yeah, basically just welded, like notched the tube, welded a straight bit on there. So this is what it looks like now that the cooler is on. Pretty happy with all the dimensions and the spacing and everything. Worked out pretty much exactly as I intended. In fact, if I grab a spirit level, it's actually pretty much, like, that's not bad, is it? For me, that's not bad. I'll take that. So yeah, it's all good apart from one thing. The rubber mounts that I showed you earlier, they're a little bit more flexible than I was expecting. I thought once you tighten these nuts down it would get a lot less flexible, but nope. So yeah, we're gonna brace it off here as well. Anyway, let's get on with making the mount for the power steering cooler. First thing we need to do is notch this pipe again to fit around our main tube. Right, I've just cut some sheet to roughly the right size and drilled some holes so this fits on there, just. Yeah, and now we need to start attaching everything and lining everything up and leveling it, and this is where it starts taking ages. Right, so I've got to try and fuck. This is exactly why it takes forever. Because I've got to try hold these bits in place whilst trying to see if everything fits. Because the trouble is I'm trying to get it all in place so that I can use a spirit level to check and see if it's even vaguely level. Like, whilst it doesn't have to be perfect, it wants to be somewhere near level, do you know what I mean? I'm going to draw around this so we know roughly where that's sat. Right, so I've marked with the pen exactly where these things need to sit when it was all level and everything. So now I'm just going to hold it in place and tack it. Right, so I made a bit of a stupid mistake there. I tacked it in place on the car and then realised that I hadn't drilled the holes in the middle. The reason I can't drill them once it's on there is because the dimple die thing does not fit. If you don't know what this does, I'll show you in a sec. But yeah, it wouldn't fit while it was all in place. So luckily I noticed before I'd actually welded it all up and I only had to break a couple of small tacks. But yeah, so now we're just going to drill these holes for weight saving, and then dimple die it and then tack it in place. Clean these out quickly with this deburring tool to make sure there's no shit around the edges. Right, this little thing that I mentioned earlier is called a dimple die, I think there's another name for it as well, but that's what I call it. There's two parts to it. You put this on the underneath, and you put this on top, and then you tighten it up to fuck, basically. and you can see it's got like a slight bevel on it there, and like same on this side. Basically that just forms the metal to that shape, so it creates like a dimple, hence the name, around the hole. And the reason for that is to add strength. Like in reality for this, does it matter? No, not at all. I'm doing it mainly for the look, I'll be completely honest, because it makes it look kind of like you know what you're doing, which I don't, but I like to pretend I do. Yeah, the actual reason for it is to add strength, so that you can cut weight out basically, but then add strength back by bending the area around the hole. Don't ask me for the physics of why bending stuff makes it stronger, but it just does. I'm going to try and watch how much it bends and stop if it gets too crazy, but you've got to do it really tight, because this is 3mm thick steel. You've got to do it really tight to actually get it to do anything, to deform the hole. I don't think that bent it too much, too bad. We'll see. Right, so there we go. You're probably not going to be able to tell on camera at all, but we've got a dimple around there now. Right, I don't think I've forgotten anything this time, so we can actually weld it all up, finally. Right, this side went okay. I can't actually get in to do these bits around the side here though. This side was a complete mess, so we're just going to fix that with a grinder. This one went okay, but again I couldn't really get around. I could probably do that corner, a bit of that edge actually. We'll do that quickly in a minute. Okay, so I've got everything in, one big happy cooling family, and everything's looking good. All nice and level still, all nice and straight. They're both pretty much the same distance set back. Decent enough gap to the radiator. I didn't want them to be completely touching the radiator. So yeah, it's all worked out pretty well. Happy with that. I think it looks decent enough. Obviously when it's painted, and like I'll sand this down a little bit just to make it look a bit nicer, but when it's painted it'll look okay. But anyway, now we're going to move on to the intercooler, I think. Right, Carl's come to give me a hand, and we're trying to figure out how to mount the intercooler so that everything will fit, and the front bumper, and everything. Basically, we've still got a lot of shit to figure out. So what we've done so far is cut a hole out the front bumper, because of course you just cut things that get in the way. And now we're trying to make, now we're going to make the bonnet pins work, because they're going to kind of dictate where some other stuff can go. Right, we've marked out where these bonnet pins are going to go with some incredibly accurate measurements. Isn't that right, Carl? Incredibly accurate. And cut some more of the bonnet out, because why not? And we've got the bonnet pins in where they're going to be. So yeah, now we've got to do the fun bit, which is cutting holes out in the bonnet. Yay! It fits. Done. Let's go home. Super close up angle on this. All the detail, all the dirt basically.
Slow-mo.
Slow-mo. I don't think that's slow-mo if you just do it slowly. Right, we've got the bonnet pins or air catchers, whatever you want to call them. We've got them in, and we're pretty happy with it. Pretty happy with how it's gone. But we're now going to start making this little bracket that's going to sit underneath them. So we've not completely finalised all this, because it's going to change the height slightly when we add this little bracket. And this bracket is going to be to mount the front bumper onto. We're going to have some things coming off it to mount the front bumper onto. And for something else, I can't remember. What else was it for? Oh yeah, to hold the radiator up. There we go.
You say when.
No, you say when. No, you hang up first.
No, you.
Are they perfect?
No.
No. No, they're not. They need a fair bit more, don't they?
A little bit more. Trim off.
I'll get to the end anyway. It went weird. It was going well, and then something went weird. Looks like a fucking MIG weld. Sort of, doesn't it? Don't get too close to my mess. That's accurate. It's the most accurate tool we've got is Carl's hand. Nailed it. We know what we're doing. Right, now we've got this massive fucking gap to bridge. Right, we're just welding some nuts onto the back side underneath of these tabs. We're not finished tidying all this up yet, but yeah, you get the idea. Show you my beautiful welding skills, but they're not so beautiful most of the time. But yeah, the back side went okay. These bottom bits are actually kind of half decent, but yeah, the top side a little bit messy in places, but whatever. It's going to be painted, so it won't look too bad. Yeah, at the moment, just welding some nuts onto the bottom side of here, and this is going to be the front bumper support bracket, basically. So the front bumper is going to bolt into these, basically. So let's get welding. Now we're going to do some dimple dyeing, because dimple dyes make everything look better. Don't they, Carl? Carl agrees. What? They hide mistakes. Yeah, just draw people's eye to the dimple dye and it takes it away from the bad bits. That's our logic here for this build.
Makes welds look 10% better.
It does, yeah, because people don't look at them. Beautiful. Beautiful. Right, I can't remember what the last thing we filmed was, but we've been busy making the brackets for the intercooler to mount to, and everything's pretty much in place now. So we've not made the end tanks or anything yet, but we've got a decent gap between the intercooler and the oil coolers. We've actually got, if I show you under here, if you're going to be able to see, I'm going to lay on the floor so you can see. We've got a bit of room between the intercooler and the front bumper, but we're probably going to trim some of the front bumper anyway. Like, see, it's pretty close there. Like, we'll probably trim a bit of this stuff. Because it's not really doing anything. Like, we won't cut it all the way back because it adds a bit of strength having the bends in there, but we'll cut a bit of that back just to give us some more room. But yeah, so we're looking good. Don't inspect the welding under here, but we're looking good. Now we've got the hard bit of making the aluminium end tanks for the intercooler, which is going to be a nightmare because the welding on the support brackets was horrific. You can't really see that, I don't think, but that's a good thing. Because it was horrendous. Like, aluminium welding, so much harder than I remember. So I'm not looking forward to doing this, but let's get it done. Right, before I start on the intercooler end tanks, I think I'm going to try and do something about this flex that I mentioned in here. Like, it's, you probably can't see on camera very well, but it's solid enough. Like, it would probably do the job, but it's just a little bit too flexible for my liking. I want to try and make it a bit stiffer. So what I'm going to do is firstly cut these off, which is a shame, but cut these off and make a new bracket that covers 2 bolt holes rather than just 1, because these are pretty much our only mounting points to the car, apart from we've got this vertical bar going down here, which I don't know if that's doing a lot, again, because we only use a really small tab on there to hold it on, so I think that flexes a bit as well. So yeah, these are kind of the points that it actually attaches to the car, and then we've literally just got 1 point, which is on a fairly flimsy bit of the car as well. Anyway, you can kind of bend that by hand when there's nothing on there. So I think I'll make a new bracket that covers both of these, and then we'll kind of just see how it is after that. There we go. I'm going to try and do this kind of accurately for once instead of just sort of guessing. I'm going to use a proper measuring device. From the end of there, we want to go over there. So we're going to give ourselves quite a lot of room to play with so that we can just kind of cut things down to the exact shape afterwards. That many degrees, however many that was, for 110 millimeters, which is about to there. Again, this is not super accurate, I'm well aware of that. I'm gonna go about there. However many degrees that is. Again, it doesn't actually matter the number really. We just wanna get something that we can trace onto this thing. There's something like that. How far do we wanna go though? That's the question. Right, does that look anything like the right sort of shape? I would say yeah, like we've got loads of room, like loads of extra room, but that's fine because we can cut that down afterwards. So what I'm going to do is just hold this in place, which isn't the best way of doing this, but hold it in place and then just draw the holes from the inside, I think. Cool, that is a hole that we can drill. Does it line up? It looks like it does. Right, now we're going to cut out the profile of this back edge to make it look nicer basically. Right, hopefully we drew around it there. There we go, that looks a lot better, doesn't it? A few rounded edges and following the contours of this part here. It's looking pretty neat. So I think we will bolt it in place and then weld it in place. Done. I kind of didn't realise I got to the end. I just got this straight off the end, but whatever. So I've just tidied things up with the flap disc, make it a bit nicer, and yeah, this is what we've got. Done the other side as well. It's looking decent. Has it helped with the flex? A little bit. Not completely solved it, but I would say it's definitely helped a bit. So yeah, we'll just have to kind of leave it like that for now. I think what we're going to do is tie it into the bumper bar, like the crash bar that's going to be made to come around the front here. Because the trouble is, with the intercooler here, the end tanks are going to come up pretty damn high, like pretty close to this, at their sort of highest points. So we can't sort of bracket off them back to this or anything like that. So I think what we're going to have to do is have something sort of come out here and then attach to the bumper bar, that crash bar that's going to be across the front of here. So that's the plan, but we can't do that until we've made the bash bar. So for now, this will do. And yeah, the next job really is the intercooler end tanks, but I think probably going to save that for next week now. Right, so yeah, that's going to do for this video. Hope you've enjoyed. We got quite a lot done, I think. Big thank you to Carl as well. Massive thank you to him because he spent like 2 full days here helping with stuff. So big thank you to him. And yeah, next week I think I've got a couple of other friends coming to help. So hopefully things will go a bit quicker, which is going to be necessary because I made a list the other day of all the jobs that I've got left to do, both with the twin turbo and with getting the car ready for BDC. And the list is 52 items long. And I didn't even get absolutely everything on there. But the problem is some of those items, some of those jobs are like 2 or 3 day jobs. Like they're not small things. Some of them are small things, but none of them are like a quick sort of 5-minute job, you know what I mean? Most of them are at least going to be a couple of hours. Some of them are going to be a couple of days, maybe more. So yeah, 50 things to get done. I'm going to try and leave the BDC stuff till last, like we just want to at least get the twin turbo stuff done, but some of it, like installing the fire suppression system, is going to be easier when the engine's out and stuff like that to route things through the engine bay. So there's some of it that we're going to kind of mix in and do at the same time as well. We're finishing the twin turbo stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of shit left to do. Hopefully, like I say, some of my friends will come and help me and we can get things done a bit quicker. So yeah, that's it for this week. I'll see you next week when we'll be doing the intercooler end tanks and probably some of the intake piping as well. So yeah, we'll see you there.